So good morning, class. Um, it would be Friday, October the 19th, 2018. This is our fifth week of all things tech class. So this will be our third week where we're talking about actual programming. We've been using the Python uh, programming language. A lot of you guys have been emailing me your homework, emailing me, with issues and things of that nature. And I do appreciate you being actively involved in trying to learn and play with this. And there again, uh, to me, that's really just how to learn it. It's just you got to dive in and you've got to start playing around with Python and uh, debugging your code and figuring out why. Because when you figure out why, you usually won't make those mistakes again. So anyhow, let's dive in. There again, we've got to have our normal slide there. This is going to be a very interesting week, Judson, since Clemson and State are playing. So anyhow, one or the other will be able to poke fun at the other one here when we get back. And my next slide is there again. We're doing research for my wife's travel company at Walt Disney World, and my kids say that I resemble most Donald Duck in his attitude. So anyway, we'll move right along. Okay, so let's recap from the last class. Python, there again, did you get it up and running? When it's all set up, at least on a Windows computer, you should be able to double click on your .py file, or you should be able to go to the command prompt, navigate to the place where your file is at, and then do Python space, the file name, the full file name, so whatever the file name is, .py, and hit enter, and also run the program. There again, if anybody has any issues, I'd like to work with them to get that working. If you have a Windows-based machine, I can definitely help you get it. Mac, I'm not as adept to it, but I will help with what I can. And then I think we've had some folks with Chromebooks, which there's not a straightforward way to program. What I have not had a chance to look at, though, is to see if there is an online compiler for Python, so you don't have to have it installed on your computer. But there again, I encourage you to try to write the code. Think like a programmer to write your code. You can send it to me. I'll be more than glad to compile it, run it, and then tell you what it says. If there's an error, and let you try to program that way. There again, everybody find a text editor. There again, I don't care what text editor you use. It's up to you. What works best for you. Like I say, I use Notepad++ because it's very, very, very popular. It's very, very, very free. But if we look at some of the web pages, I think on the next slide here. So if you go to the python.org, spend some time there. There's a lot of great information there that I think would help you guys look at what you're doing. Like I say, there's the getting started, start with our beginner's guide. So it'll kind of explain the background history of Python. There's some free online books. I know a lot of you guys, want to find information on your own, and that's kind of the way you learn. So this is a great place. They even have I think it was a tutorial there to write a game using Python. So take a look at that. And there again, they also have a page there on text editors. I think it's off of that getting started, start with our beginner's guide. So there again, you can look at which ones are available for Windows, for Mac, for Linux. There again, it doesn't matter which one you use. They all, at the end of the day, create a text file that's good for Python. So don't feel like you have to use Notepad++. And there again, so how do I get better at coding? It's practice, practice, practice. It's just like anything else. Yes, some people are able to pick it up faster than others, but at the end of the day, it's all about practice. How do I get better? You've got to, it's kind of like the, what is it, the farmer's commercial. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. There again, as more you code and figure out how things work, or better yet, how things do not work, it helps you better in coding. So when that you see a problem, you're like, hey, I got an idea how to handle this. So that's about all I have about the official Python. There again, I encourage you guys to keep coding. We're going to see Visual Basic here in a week or two. There again, you're going to see a lot of the same elements and thought processes, just a slightly different syntax or the specific way the language is written. But there again, I challenge you to come up with some other programs. Think of something that you want to be able to make, and there again, write it down. What's some problem statement? And then figure out how to code it with Python. And there again, you're more than glad to share them with me or ask me questions. I just want to get the creative thought process flowing with coding because everybody's got to start somewhere. All right, so let's now move into HTML. So there again, it's a language. Reason I'm bringing up HTML or hypertext markup language is because this is what the internet web pages are based off of. So it's a standardized system for tagging text files. So there again, you can see we're dealing with text files to achieve font, color, graphic, and hyperlink effects on World Wide Web. So that's where we get the www from, pages. This is the standard for web pages. HTML is compiled and displayed by your web browser. So it's Internet Explorer, Edge, Chrome, Safari, Firefox, you name it. You may be using some other web browsers. There again, it's all the same. And there again, you've got a text file that your web browser is compiling and executing at the same time. There again, we're not making other languages are a little different because you take your source code and you compile it into an executable, and then you run the executable at some other time. There again, it's just different languages work. So has anybody in class here, has anybody ever created a web page before? Anybody want to be a web developer? Great money to be made developing web pages. And it's evolved greatly from, I remember, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, actually making a standard, HTML web page, putting it out on a web server, and then being able to see it. There again, I'm sure most of y'all have already dabbled in this. There again, another great career path. And it's some, trivia for the internet, the World Wide Web. It actually was developed, of course, by government and academia, universities, as a way to communicate information from each other. So we can see how it's evolved. For me, I remember my first experience being the wonderful AOL disc that would come in the mail that you could use with your 56K dial-up. Sure, most of you probably like, dial what? Yes, we used to use our phone line to connect to the internet. Now everybody probably has high-speed internet and Wi-Fi in the house. So the internet has come a long way. So, kind of briefly talk about HTML. HTML uses the less than and greater than characters. You could call them a type of brackets, whatever you want to call them, for tags. And this is very similar to XML, the extensible markup language. So some of you guys may be familiar with XML used in some other things, Java. There again, it's a standard. If you notice, most things are trying to be a standardized way of doing something that's everybody, whether we're here in Denver, North Carolina, or Lincoln, North Carolina, or Indonesia, or Russia, or China, or Europe, or the Caribbean. We've all got a way that we can write something, and we know that other people can view it the way we want them to see it. So there's a beginning tag and an ending tag for every command. So as we can see, we did bold and then slash bold for XYZ, whatever's in between those two tags. So this would bold the text XYZ. The H1/H1, this would make that a heading. So it's kind of like in Word where you choose the heading and it automatically makes it a bigger font and maybe bolds it. So there again, you can use the H tags, the header tags, H1, H2, all the way through H6. And then the next one is an example of how you would do a hyperlink. So the hyperlink would be Disney Vacations. So that's the text that would be on the screen that would be marked up so that you can click on it. The href is what it uses where you actually put the website, and then there again, you always finish with a slash tag to say, hey, okay, I'm done with this piece, do the next thing. You can also stack tags. So I could take that XYZ bold / bold, and I could put the H tags around it. So I could do H1 bold and then XYZ and then / bold and / H. And you just got to make sure you've got the left and right brackets or greater than, less than symbols around it. I encourage you, and if you go to Google and you type HTML, there's only about 4 zillion pages that come up. One that I usually use as a quick reference, just because it pops up at the top, but you're welcome to other things. If you've got another site that you guys have used, that's great. But this one here, the w3schools.com. So I encourage you, and part of the, your homework would be to go to this website, and they've got beginners, they've got just a list of commands. But what's nice is they've got an inline or online editor right there. So on the left side of the screen, you can put in your code. The right side, you see what it looks like compiled, displayed. So that's where I'd like for you guys to go and, there again, play. See what it does. Put in something on the left side, see what you get on the right side. So there again, HTML uses the character tags, very similar to XML. And I've given you some here, you must start a document type declaration. So what is it? It's HTML. And then the document starts with that tag, HTML, and then you're telling it body. And the key thing is between above body, you can have other tags that are not displayed on the screen, but they tell the web browser, i.e. the compiler, some other things about it. So maybe some metadata, telling you how to handle for the web browser, how to handle it. And there again, you can see there I've got the H1 tag, the P and /P, there again is a paragraph. So if you think about it, it's kind of like if you're in Word or your text, not text editor, but your Word editor. It's kind of where you've got the heading, paragraph, you've got various things to help make it. And then at the bottom, you can see where we've got the slash body. So we're saying, hey, we're done with the body. And then HTML, we're done with the document. You will get errors if you do not have your arguments closed out. Okay. And then HTML, let's switch languages again. Same thing, but they're again getting off Python. So some other just kind of vocabulary that you'll see with HTML, and you'll see how it leads into the further classes, is you've got CSS, and that, I had it on the tip of my tongue, but that's like code styling. It basically lets you set ahead of time, hey, when I call things, like a header and other things, this is what I want it to look like, so that your site is themed in the way that you want it. The great thing is You get halfway through coding your website and you're like, I don't like this font. I don't like this size. I don't like whatever it may be. You just go to the CSS and edit, and it applies to everywhere. So that makes it really nice. And there again, JavaScript. So we've got Lauren and Jacob that have had previous experience with JavaScript. So this is where you get the more advanced web pages. So you've got something you can click and interact. It's almost like a program within a program to do something. There's a lot of calculators. How you want to calculate geometry or a calculator. A lot of times they use JavaScript. There again, JavaScript was adapted from Java to be really lightweight, to be compiled by your browsers, because most all modern web browsers now have a JavaScript compiler inside of it to handle that. There again, it's how the web pages have progressed over the years to be able to do more advanced, cool features. The next thing is SQL, language for accessing databases. And SQL stands for Structured Query Language. We're going to talk about that in a week or two, maybe even the next class. But there again, if you think about it, we all interact with data all the time, whether you think about it or not. But when you go to a web page and you're filtering, you're sorting, you're looking for some type of data, or you go to create an account, it wants your name, it wants your email address, it wants a password. So that's how it keeps all that data together. There again, big money, big careers in web developing, especially with accessing, databases. The medical industry, having a website you can go on and pull up your records, scheduling a doctor's appointment. Hey, a database. I know there's a lot of music lovers, as we talked about the first day. So anybody who's got Pandora, Spotify, any of those, that's just a database. Hey, the music, I want to search for your specific artist. Boom, here's all this music. So there again, you are querying a database to get back what you want. And the next one is PHP. Man, this morning I am just at a loss for the acronyms. But go look it up. But PHP is a web server programming language. We're going to talk about it a minute in WordPress because that's what it's based on. But there again, some smart individuals, have advanced web design and having a PHP engine to be able to do some really advanced things in web pages. And then last but not least, hey, one thing that I thought was neat finding is, hey, Python. What? That's what we've been learning, and it is able to be used on web pages. To do there again, we could create a calculator. We could take our program, our guessing game, and have, Seeds of Promise, really cool interactive web game. Let's guess your number. So as you can see, it all ties together. Everything is not done in a vacuum. Python is not a throwaway language just for learning how to code. So we talked about the PHP and the SQL. Well, there's a very, very big popular software package. It's called WordPress. Most of you probably heard of it. It's the most widely used website engine. It's free. That's one reason it's very, very popular. So there again, it's open source, but you install it on some web host server space, and it gives you a complete content management system. So you can manage your pages, your graphics, build a web page. Some of you may have a blog page. That's what WordPress originally was designed for. So everybody could have a blog site, but it's evolved as anything to be more than that. So the websites that I develop, that I have both for my company, for my wife's travel agency, for my customers that ask for that help, use WordPress. Now, obviously there's people that have monetized WordPress with their plugins and their themes and stuff like that. But hey, that's the great thing. How can I make money off of something free? So there again, if anybody is interested in this, you can go to WordPress.com, take a look at it. It's neat. I think even maybe WordPress has like a free site where you can register. There again, don't do any of this without your parents' permission, or they're okay to do this. But these editors now are not so much breaking out raw text files and breaking out the tags, of doing HTML, but like anything else, to me, the better that you learn the foundation of what, because it's just creating HTML code. It helps you debug. It helps you look at things and understand, because invariably, I've always found in WordPress, hey, that's not doing what I want it to do. And there again, that's with anything. So why? Well, it helps if you can go read the code, because you can take any web page. And I know, at least in Chrome and I think Internet Explorer, you can right click on the web page and say see source. And the web browser will display in a text editor looking window the actual code that it compiled to make the website. So it's a great way to start learning and looking. How did you do this? Now, like I say, if you're starting to look at one of those advanced things, you may see JavaScript, or sometimes, web developers try to protect their work because they don't want somebody stealing it. Although the website or the internet makes it hard to keep stuff proprietary. So encourage you to look at that. There again, the web page is a great way to communicate. I know there's Facebook and all the other social media things, but websites are still used. People still interact with them. It's their way that anybody in the world can find you and interact. So there again, take a look at WordPress. Now, with that being said, I don't know if I can bring up a web browser. And I thought we would go to that W3 schools. So if we just search it and we see that it's right here, I think this is within my screen capture software. So we can see here we got tutorials, references, we've got examples. There again, as you can see, there's where I ripped off that sample to put in the presentation. But hey, we got learn HTML, and you see HTML5 as everything. It keeps evolving. People add new features, fix things. So you can see here with try it yourself. So here's this editor where I was talking about. So this is where you can and then you hit run, and that should make this right side. Well, as always, it should make that change. Our heading should now say Seeds of Promise. But for you guys, it may be because of my screen capture software. But this is where you can write your code on the left side and see what you get on the right side with it. But there again, great thing to walk through here to kind of reiterate what we have just talked about. You learn way more, a lot smarter people than I on HTML. But it kind of help you with the strip. But there again, it's like anything else. You learn the lingo, you learn the syntax. There are HTML. Look at this. Hey, use a notepad or a text edit. You can use Notepad++ to write HTML code. So it's there. There again, more basic examples. Talks about the headings. talks about a paragraph, talks about how to do a link, how to add an image. And as we can see here, we've got the name of the picture, and the alt is basically like, what do you see when you hover over the picture text-wise? Or if the picture for some reason can't load, what does it display? And then you tell it, you define the height and the width of the picture. How do you make buttons? How do you make lists? So there's code for everything. If we go over here and look at elements, there again, you'll see a start tag, end tag. And here's what we were talking about before with the nested. Tags where you can add them on. And there again, don't forget the end tag. You will get an error. So, oh, another great point to make right here. HTML tags are not case sensitive. So, capital P, lowercase p, do the same thing. But there again, it recommends lowercase. That means in the future, that may not hold true. Attributes. So there again, that's used for links, pictures, headings, styles, formatting. So we've, all right, comments. Comment in this case, and remember in Python, it was the # or hashtag. In HTML, it is the bracket with a exclamation point. And if you notice, and then the dash dash, and you close it out with the dash dash. So it doesn't have a exclamation point in the end tag. There again, document, document, document. So somebody can come behind you and figure out what you did. There again, if you're working on a large programming project, you are probably not the only person working on it. So you will have to interface with other people. Other people will take your code and build on it or add to it or interface with it. So it is key so that somebody can read it without having to have you, because you may no longer work for the company. There again, you can do colors. So you can do a lot of things. There again, spend some time. As you see here, it starts, you can think of it. There again, for Jacob and Lauren, JavaScript. So you can see here's an example. If we click that, see how it calculated the date and the time. So how did that work? Well, use the script tag. And you notice here, it's calling the JavaScript. JavaScript itself's not right here. It's not in a line, but it's calling it. So you can see here just on the side, and then there's HTML forms. How do I get data from someone? What we call a form, we code a form. See right here. Now the key thing is that what do I do with this data? How do I save it long term? That's the SQL with storing it in a database. So here's some more over here with HTML5. You want to learn more why and how and what makes it HTML5. Media. So how do I plug in a video? So you can learn that. There again, there's examples, there's quiz. So there again, for those of you that do want to get a lot out of this class and learn, please go here. Yep. So there again, I've been going about 30 minutes. This will be your quickest class ever. So your homework, spend some time at the w3schools.com, the webpage I just showed, walking through the tutorials as much or little as you want. Try creating your own web page. Have fun with it. There again, the sky's the limit. And then you can email me your web page code, or if you already have access to be able to publish it online or something, be ready to to show it in class. If you want, we'll call it up on my laptop here. There again, just want you guys to have fun with being able to make something that you can share with other folks. That's the homework. Let's see. So next Friday is the 4th Friday, so we don't have Seed to Promise, and then I will see you back. I guess that will be the first Friday in November. So we are getting close to our looking at that Saturday coding class on November the 17th at 9 o'clock. I guess what I would start asking is, is there anybody interested? If you are interested, does that date work for you or not? I have not yet nailed down where we may have it because it just depends on how many people are interested, because if 5 or 10 people are interested, it's different than 2 or 3 of where we may do it. And there again, I'm just looking at, hey, gives us, a couple 3 hours to kind of walk through a idea and actually code it, as opposed to our 45 minutes on a Friday, not really having time to think through a concept as well. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm pretty flexible with it. I mean, it's not going to be a PowerPoint presentation. It's going to be a sitting down in front of a computer. If for some reason you do not have a Windows computer, I can probably make one available depending on how many people want to do this and need one. I do not want there to be any barriers from somebody getting to do what they would like to do or like to try. So think about that, but start emailing me or let me know somehow. Email, call me, get your parents to communicate, smoke signals, however you want to know. But I'm wanting to try to figure out, especially as soon as we get back, to figure out how many people, if anybody, and if nobody is, that's no problem. An hour a week is kind of hard for us to really develop an idea. And I know a lot of you had expressed interest in coding. So I thought this would be a way to see, and depending on how this goes, I'm willing to do more classes. So start thinking about that. Thinking about over the week that we're off, talk with your parents. I'm somewhat flexible if there's quite a bit of interest, but I chose a day that something big's going on somewhere else, then we're flexible on that. But anyhow, other than that, thank you for putting up with the video. I'm sure, I guess I should have paused a few times during this and stopped and looked at some folks that were side talking or cutting up. So this is your getting the evil eye right now. But other than that, you guys have a great couple weeks. I'll be enjoying myself at Disney World, and then we'll all hit back ready to dive into more code. And then let's quickly, since we got a little bit of time, let's go back here. So that would be week 5. Okay, so when we come back, we'll talk about the database theory. So we'll talk about the SQL, the structured query language, and how that interacts just at a high level. And then the week after that, Microsoft Office on steroids. And there again, I'm not talking about, I'm going to teach you how to bold a word. We're going to use Visual Basic that's built into Microsoft Office for Word, Excel, PowerPoint. I mean, all of them, but Access. But we're really going to focus on Excel and Access and maybe Word if we have time, to show you how you can automate things, how you can write Visual Basic code and you don't need an additional compiler or anything like that. I have used it a lot. It's got me a lot of places. It's gotten me jobs. It's gotten me excellent reviews in my jobs and things like that, because I know how to do stuff in Office that other people do not know how to do. I know how to take things that if you were to do it by hand could take days, and I literally can click a button and in a matter of minutes it's done. So there again, I think it is a worthwhile thing for you guys to learn. And then there again, in week 8, we'll talk about cybersecurity. Big part of what I spend doing in my job. It's a hot topic. The good guys versus the bad guys, and we'll talk about what hacking is. And then we'll also spend a little bit of time on the cryptography, the Bitcoin, bit mining, cryptography, crypto mining, and just talk about that. And then week 9, just kind of looking quickly into robotics, circuits and control logic. So there again, showing you another application of technology and programming. And then last but not least, if we actually are having full 10 weeks, student's choice. So you guys got to start thinking about what you want to see that last class. So other than that, have a wonderful week, and I will see you when I get back. And there again, not saying I will reply to your emails, but I will have email with me on vacation. So if you do have a question, I can respond to it. Other than that, have a great week.